Hi, welcome to this podcast where I'm going to be looking at marginal costing again and utilisation of scarce resources in a company. And again, in an exam question, this is almost always linked to manufacturing companies. You can use these techniques for other types of businesses. However, the most likely scarce resources that you are going to get in a question will be machines, labour hours, raw materials, and possibly space. There are other good examples of where businesses have made decisions based on scarce resources. So, for example, a few years ago, Ford had profitability problems across the business, and they had some sports car businesses that they purchased, including Jaguar and Land Rover or Range Rover in the UK. They were profitable, but they decided to get rid of these non-core businesses so that senior managers could focus their efforts much more on the core brand, which is obviously by far the most important part of the business. And just as a quick note on here, okay, we tend to be looking here at short-run problems with a scarce resource, okay, because one of the big options for a business, if that scarcity is going to continue for a long period of time, what they may decide to do instead is to increase price, because that will also automatically reduce demand and at the same time increase profitability, or certainly enable the business to minimize the loss in profit from producing all of the output that is demanded. Okay, first of all, in an exam question, you might be asked to work out which is the limiting factor, or here what we're going to look at is proving that a particular input is a limiting factor. So we have a business, which is A&G Corns Manufacturing, and they manufacture brushes. They've got three types of brushes, and the supply of horsehair at the moment is only 100,000 kilograms, which they don't believe is sufficient for all of the business output. And we've got some data here, and the key bits at the moment are the direct materials for a toothbrush are 50 cents, for a hairbrush it's $1, and for a paintbrush it's $1.50, and the supply of horsehair is at 50 cents per kilogram. So the first thing we need to do, if we're going to prove we've got a problem with the lack of supply of raw materials, is to find out how much raw material we need per product. So for a toothbrush, we would do 50 cents of raw materials, divide that by 50 cents per kilogram, and that gives us 1 kilogram of horsehair per toothbrush. Seems quite a lot. It's going to be a big toothbrush. Okay, some of the calculation for the hairbrush and the paintbrush give me 2 and 3 kilograms. And what we then do is we calculate the amount of kilograms we need for our total production for each product. So we do 1 kilogram times 50,000 gives us 50,000 kilograms of hair toothbrush. Okay, 40,000 kilograms of hairbrush and 90,000 kilograms of paintbrush. So the total kilograms we'd need to make all the production for this firm is 180,000 kilograms, and that is 80,000 kilograms bigger than our supply for the time period, which is only 100,000 kilograms, and therefore, yes, the limiting factor here will be horsehair, and that proves that the business won't be able to produce its full planned output. Okay, the next thing we need to do is to be able to calculate the optimum production plan. And the way that we're going to do this is we're going to do another little table. And on this little table, what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the following information. We need we know the demand anyway, so I've just put that in straight from the top here, just to get all the information in one place. You wouldn't need to do that in an examination. But we then need to calculate our contribution per unit, because if we make the because what we're ultimately going to do is work out the contribution per kilogram, and that will allow us to calculate the maximum contribution and therefore profit we can make. So the contribution per unit is quite a simple calculation. We need to subtract from the selling price the marginal cost. So in the example of the toothbrush, the marginal cost is the total of the direct materials and the direct labour, which is 2. So 4 take away 2 gives me $2 per unit. For the hairbrush, $7.50 take away $2.50 gives me $5 per hairbrush. And for the paintbrush, we do $11.65, take $2.50, take $1.50. That gives me $7.65 per hairbrush. Provided we then know the kilograms per unit, which we've already calculated, what we can then do is divide the contribution per unit by the contribution per kilogram of horsehair, and that gives me $2 of contribution per kilogram for the toothbrush, $2.50 for the hairbrush, and $2.55 for a paintbrush. And on the final stage, and this is quite important, we then rank our products in terms of profitability. So the best one for profitability here is the paintbrush. Second one is the hairbrush, and the last thing that we would produce would be toothbrushes. And then with this information, so there's a number of steps here, so it's something you do need to have a little bit of practice on to be able to do the different steps. What we then need to be calculating is we need to keep a running total of how much product we've got available after we've fulfilled the previous product. So the first product in the ranking is a paintbrush, and we're going to make all 30,000 units, and that's going to require 90,000 kilograms of hairbrush. That's fine because we know that we can produce all of the paintbrushes. So the limiting factor used on paintbrushes will be 90,000 kilograms. That leaves 10,000 kilograms over for the hairbrush. Now, if you look here, the demand for the hairbrush is 20,000 hairbrushes, and that would require 40,000 kilograms of horsehair, but we haven't got that, so we can ignore that. We're not going to produce 20,000 hairbrushes. So what I now do, I do 10,000 divided by the 2 kilograms per hairbrush, and that tells me how many units of hairbrushes I can produce, which is 5,000. 5,000 will use 10,000 kilograms of horsehair, and that means that I've used all of my supply for the period. So my optimal financial production plan is 30,000 paintbrushes and 5,000 hairbrushes, and we're not going to be able to produce any toothbrushes in this example. Okay, so you've got to do the 2 stages. You've got to get to the ranking point. And then after we get to the ranking point, we just work through each product in order, starting with the number 1 ranked product and ending with the product that finally utilizes all of the supply, the limiting factor. A little bit of theory. It's not very much theory here, to be honest. Okay, we've got our optimal financial production plan for the short term. Okay, but the business may rationally decide not to completely follow this. Things that the business decide, and once they've decided what the optimal possible plan is, they also need to look at the overall strategy and position of the business. And they need to look at things like, are the products complementary? So, for example, if you manufacture tables and chairs, they are complementary. A lot of people won't buy a table unless you manufacture chairs. So it may need to get adapted to make sure that complementary products are still available to the customers that buy them. Similarly with jackets and trousers. Now, for this business, they produce paintbrushes, hairbrushes, and toothbrushes. I can't see that people that buy a hairbrush from a particular business would also want to buy paintbrushes. So that might not be applicable in this case. And what businesses also need to do, they need to look at the long-term prospects for each product. So it could be, for example, that toothbrushes is a new line that they see as being moving into the future, the main business line. So they may decide that they still need to produce toothbrushes. And the final thing is looking at retaining key customers. If you've got very important customers to the profitability and the growth of the business, then it may be that they do produce, for example, toothbrushes specifically for that customer, and except they're going to produce fewer paintbrushes. Right, thank you very much for listening. My students, you will have a couple of questions to have a go at. And again, for my students, if you've got any questions, don't forget to email me so we can resolve them. And for those that have just listened, thank you very much for your time and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.